Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is a round 5 game from the 2017 Tata Steel Chess Tournament between Sergey Karjakin, playing on the white end, the 2016 World Chess Championship Match Challenger. He is paired against Baskaran Adhiban, a 24-year-old from India who competed in the 2016 Tata Steel Challengers section. He won that, which earned him the ticket into this year's Masters section. So let's see how this round 5 encounter would go. Karjakin opens with e4, and now we get to see an atypical opening at the top level, a welcome sight for French defense players. e6 on board. d4, d5, knight c3, knight f6, and e5. White grabs some kingside space. Knight d7, and white looks to reinforce this strong point e5, first with f4, only then knight f3. Meanwhile, black looks to chip away at the tail. A lot of attention is now focused on d4 for these next few moves. Defending, attacking, defending. Bishop e7, queen d2, and now black prepares to grab some queenside space with b5, and now move 9, a3. This is the first move where I really had to do some thinking on my own. I asked why in this position. Why a3 of all moves? Why not bishop e2, bishop d3, getting a new piece involved? Why not castles? Why not captures? These are some, let's say, I don't know, they seem natural enough to get on with development, a bishop move, castles, maybe release the tension. But why of all moves a3? Let me just touch on this a little bit. Why not queenside castles? Because c4 hits. And this pawn has too much of a cramping effect on the king's home. This is not a good option for white. It's not a good option to commit your king to the queenside before having this tension resolved. If you go queenside, c4 hits, and soon that pawn's neighbor will come down to b4, and this knight will cry. He's going to have to find a new home, and that's a big problem for Team White. Queenside castle, no good. Also, bishop e2. This queen likes to transfer over to f2 to exert pressure on c5. White would like to force black to commit. Why not capture here? Well, both sides are being stubborn. Both sides are basically saying in this position, you take me. That way I get to recapture and move forward. So, a little bit of patience. Neither side wants to be the one to initiate this capture. a3, to a certain extent, is waiting to see what black will do next. Maybe b5, maybe castles. In the game, it's castles. If b5 is on board, then white can break up that pawn trio, slide over to f2, the bishop isn't in the way, and go from here, okay? a3, move 9 on board. Let's see how play develops from here. After now castles, white initiates the exchange, knight takes, queen f2. Where's the knight going to go? He returns back to d7. So now that the d4 pawn is no longer, white d4 pawn is gone, the attention is now turning, for black at least, towards the e5 point. Knight d4. Black would like to chip away next at the head of the pawn structure, but can't. The white knight has pressure on e6, so black first gets rid of that knight. Bishop recaptures, and only now, f6. This pawn cannot be maintained. You cannot say to yourself, I want to maintain some space advantage at this stage. You cannot do that. Here's an interesting variation I came across when preparing for this video. Queen e3. If you're playing queen e3 at this point, saying I want to hang on to that pawn there, black can take, and then immediately question the queen position. And you ready for this next move after queen h3? Black can actually take that pawn on e5. Believe it or not. Bishop takes knight will now be met with rook f5. The white king is uncastled, and the e5 point is soon to be under black's control. What does white do here? The computer already points out to take on g7. If you back up like this, wow. Talk about a mobile pawn center and a queen that is in some very hot water. Soon there's rook takes bishop and queen is lost. Short story, cannot maintain the pawn on e5. You have to give it up. E takes f, bishop takes f. And now, a very important moment in the game, actually. We're close to about the halfway point, believe it or not, in this game. We had the move bishop takes bishop. This is allowing black to recapture and develop, and all of a sudden strike at f4. The best move in this position is to play queenside castle. Get on with some development. Now that things have opened up, there needs to be a higher priority placed on development here, instead of, well, as it turns out, accentuating your opponent's development. Capturing like this is doing exactly that. Black's development is that much faster now. Best is to castle queenside in this position on this move 15. What may have kept white from doing this is the move e5. Seeing that pawn takes pawn would be met with bishop g5. That's a check, and soon your queen will be lost. However, what white can do in reply to e5 here, what white, I should say, must do in reply to e5 now, is bishop c5. This is a pretty tense middle game position. Normally would not want to give up your bishop for a knight like this, but this is considered a best line in the computer's eyes, and it still holds it as slightly better here for white. Black has a pawn duo in the center, but it's definitely coming under some heavy fire. A lot of pieces directed at d5, and who knows, maybe another one can play a role on c4. This is not a direction that white goes. Does not get on with queenside development. Instead, it was bishop takes bishop, queen takes, and white basically has to pitch a pawn at this stage. f4 is hit twice, and, you know, it's defended, but notice that there's a lot of pressure on the f-file. After g3, you ready for this next move? g5. It's one of the most committal moves in the game. Very weakening to black's own king, but Adhiban has barely blinked in this game. I mean, if you look at the clock times, each side began with 100 minutes. And they gained 30 seconds with each move. He's banked time. He's at 107 minutes now, roughly. So white's going to be losing a pawn. So how to approach this position as white? There are going to be these moments in a game where, you know, you're still going to, if you're going to be down a pawn, what's going to give you the best chance for success? What would you ideally like to have happen in this position if you're going to be down a pawn? Well, for one, white wants to try and keep the queens on the board. Queenside castle at this stage. G takes f, and now king b1. It's important not to just take the pawn here, because what do we have? The queen's exchanged, and black is just up a pawn. King will find a nice home on d6. The black king will always have a better post than his counterpart, and, well, Black is, again, still up a pawn. So white has to try and stir up some trouble at this stage. After g takes f, king b1. And now what to do is black. Black has to be careful because, material, black is up a pawn, but we have a case of opposite sides castling. So you need to be very delicate. You don't want this position to maybe open up towards your own king. You don't want the g file to maybe open up. This idea influences black's 18th. He plays f3. Not just saying, aha, I have a passed pawn. It's more than that. It's I don't want the g file to open up. I don't want my king to come under any heavy fire. f3 it is. And now how exactly to corral this pawn? It's difficult to do. Got two pieces already defending it, and a third right around the corner. The queen, I can say this much, the white queen, is not happy. She does not like to have to be the blockader of a pawn. It's just the worst piece to have as a blockader. Well, sometimes it could be a rook, but I can assure you that the queen is not happy in this position being a blockader of this pawn. Whenever she moves, this pawn is prepared to run even further. It's only 2 steps away from promotion land. Let's see what follows. We have g4, knight e5. Black's just looking to complete development here. You have to move the knight before you can move the bishop. You have to move the bishop before you can move the rook. And what better place than e5 for the knight? He's in the center. He's defending this passed pawn. Maybe c4 at some stage. Currently striking at g4. White pushes. Queen g7. Black does not bite. Queen takes pawn. Rook g1. No thanks. Black does not go for that. Queen g7. And now we have g6. This is a bit of desperation here. White is looking for some target to attack. What's best in the computer's eyes is h4 here. Hanging on to the pawn. It's rook g1 to follow. He pitches a pawn in this case, g6. Black takes it. He's up now 2 pawns. Now, at least white has something to pinpoint. Bishop d3. Black hits on with more development. Rook g1. Knight takes bishop. Pawn takes. And preparing now to double. Black remains up a couple pawns. This queen remains a terrible blockader. But yeah, not a fun position for Team White here. Rook g4. Doubling on the f-file. G-file. There's pressure here. And, at this point, you could do a couple different moves here. Computer points out these 2 moves. Both will still be, let's say, winning for black, but just to emphasize an important concept in the game, how exactly to allocate your pieces, which one would serve as the best defender in this position. You'd like to devote the lesser valued piece to defending g6 instead of the rook. Bishop to e8 it is. Knight to d1. Rook h5, maybe looking to key in on the h2 pawn, getting into the second rank one day. h4. The rook goes elsewhere. Looking at now the e2 point, looking to dislodge the blockader. Knight e3. And now we have bishop to b5. This is a very nice move. Pinpointing d3. It looks like the queen could be won, but on rook takes pawn, there would follow bishop takes d3, picking up the rook. No time for rook takes pawn. No time for anything, really. After rook to d4, we now have a very nice move, rook d4. And this is welcoming more exchanges. queen and rook are hitting here. You could take the rook here, but now here comes the queen sweeping in, and there's just one active piece for white. This is no big deal. Rook takes pawn, king f7, and soon we're going to have queen takes e4. There's just one piece. It's easily defended. From there, h5, queen takes pawn, king e1, and the king could even pack up and run towards the queen side a little bit. Look at the strong post for the queen. The bishop, the rook ideally placed behind this passed pawn, and these two pieces just are not even playing. This would not be this would be winning for black. What is tried in the game is rook takes g6, and after black's next move, white throws in the towel. Can you spot the final move, move 31 by Adhiban? If you'd like to, go ahead, pause the video, see what you would do in this position. There is more than one good move here, but a very nice finishing move here. Okay, the final move of this round 5 game is bishop takes d3. Eliminating the threat pawn takes rook, doing so with check, and in the end, this is translating into the win of the exchange. On a rook takes bishop, there will now follow queen takes rook, and this is completely winning for Team Black. So this was an opening disaster, really. I mean, to lose with the white pieces, to see this French defense at the top level like this, and black just kind of undermined the center, first striking at d4. As soon as d4 was out, the attention next turned towards the e5 point. That was taken out, and this was really the first big moment of the game, I would say. Pretty much have to get on with development now that things have opened up like this. Queenside castle is recommended here. After bishop takes, queen takes, it's going to be a very difficult road ahead. g3, g5, and black is going to be up a pawn, and white was not able to generate some attack against this weakened king as a result of g5. Black consolidated, got all of his pieces working, and there just was not any attack here for Team White. Anyhow, as usual, feel free to leave any feedback to these videos in the comment section below. Let me know what you think, and I hope you got something out of it. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.